Hello, you beautiful creatures, and welcome to the Eden Experience. This is my podcast where I talk about everything somatic healing, nervous system education, everything to do with Stoic philosophy, my random stream of consciousness, and most things in between. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you take something from this. This is episode 1, I believe, of the Eden Experience, and I will be dropping an episode every week, and I endeavor to bring you lived experience coupled with nervous system education that is scientifically backed so that you actually start to understand what your lived experience is and then also what is going on within your nervous system, because it is a deep passion of mine and I know so much of our behavior and what we do and why we do it lives within the nervous system. So welcome. I hope you have beautiful time with me here and that you actually take something from this. So the first episode is actually going to be called Don't Steal Their Struggle. And I'm going to give you some information on what the hell I mean by this. I also have some notes because there are scientific references that I like to convey, and you can also look everything up as well. I'll put all the studies in the show notes. But let's go in for a minute to the lived experience of what it actually feels like the moment that you try and hold a boundary and want to hold a boundary, but you find yourself people-pleasing, acquiescing, saying yes when you really don't want to say yes, and doing it all because you're trying to keep the peace. So let's paint the picture here. You're having a discussion with partner, mother, friend, boss, whatever, and you know what you want to say, and you don't say it. In fact, you soften it, you let it go, because you tell yourself it's not worth it. It'll only make things worse. And in that moment, you didn't keep the peace. In that moment, you stole their struggle. You took away their chance to be uncomfortable, to be accountable, to actually meet you honestly in something real. And the funny thing is, it looks like kindness, but it's not. Because as women, as people, but especially as women, we have been taught our entire lives that holding back and being a good girl is kind, that not saying things in relationships keeps us safe. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to be labeled certain things like difficult, opinionated, a ball breaker. I personally have been called that myself. It's fine. Or anything on the spectrum that doesn't fit in with that good girl, agreeable, she's super easygoing. And I've also said that myself, that I'm easygoing. And it's funny because that is so fucking vague. Easygoing. What the hell does that even mean? And the reason I'm sharing all of this with you is because I have lived and walked that path. I have pulled myself out of people pleasing. And it was really difficult for me as well because I always thought that I was a super strong, take no shit type of woman. And that part of me certainly lives and is alive within me. But over time, it kind of gets wrapped up and covered and with social conditioning and things that we were taught before we could really use words properly. It's got a lot to do with our attachments and how our nervous system adapts to survive in this world. But I'll go into more of that later. Let's get back to the lived experience. So if we feel that keeping the peace actually keeps us safe, we in our minds believe that that's kindness, but it's not. Interestingly, it's actually avoidance wearing kindness as a costume. You are cosplaying kindness, if you will. And you're actually not protecting them. You're protecting yourself from what might happen if you are actually honest. You're protecting yourself from the tension, from the possibility that they might not like it or might not like you, from the discomfort of their reaction, landing in the room and you having to stay present while it does, while it's uncomfortable. So instead, what do? We edit ourselves. We smooth it over. We offer a version of the truth that's been softened enough to keep everybody comfortable. And the beautiful thing about this is we call it being a good person, being a good girl. And here's what I want you to really, really hear. So the editing is not coming from your value system. It's not coming from a personality trait. It's not coming from the essence or the genesis of who you are. It's coming from your nervous system, and those things are very, very different. It's an adaptable survival response. Now, I want to get into what the real mechanism is here. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper. If you have a pen and paper, maybe, which is so retro, but I hope you have that, or you want to take some notes in your notes folder, or even save this down, because this is where the real juice is. So it's actually not a communication problem, because you know what you want to say. You have the words inside. In fact, your body is probably saying, no, I don't want to do that. This is not a communication problem. It's not a confidence problem, and it's not a character flaw. In that moment, the moment where you could have said the thing, your body's already made a decision because it's a prediction machine. Before your conscious mind has caught up, before you've had a chance to actually choose, your chest is tightening, your stomach is dropping, your heart rate is shifting, and your throat's closing slightly, possibly. Your words, which were there a moment ago and swim within your body, perfectly formed, ready to be released, start to dissolve. And it's not weakness. It's actually your autonomic nervous system running a protection program, a predictive protection program. And specifically, it's your sympathetic nervous system, and it's reading the relational tension as a threat. And it mobilizes a response. Now, side note, there's nothing wrong with your nervous system. You're not broken. This is actually what nervous systems do. They are adaptable, and their one priority, including every cell in your body, is to keep you alive and safe. And you will sacrifice connection with self to stay in connection with others. Because tribally, in ancient times, being with others equals safety. So we try and always stay in connection with others, even if it's severely detrimental to ourselves. So just keep that one in the back of your mind. Now, when your nervous system reads that relational tension as a threat and it mobilizes a response, there are a few different options that it chooses here. Now, more often than not, when we talk about people pleasing, we're not talking about the fight response or the flee response. We're talking about the appeasement, which can also be labeled as the fawn response. And this is to smooth things over, to make the danger go away by removing yourself as the cause of the danger. And the danger here is that relational tension. Researchers call this, as I said, the fawn response. And to give you some additional information, the psychotherapist Pete Walker, who's written extensively on complex trauma, describes it as the nervous system's attempt to maintain safety within a relationship by merging with the wishes of another. And we do this by becoming less of a problem. Now, in relation to polyvagal theory, why this happens below the level of conscious awareness is that the nervous system detects a threat through a process called neuroception, which is our process of scanning the environment constantly, automatically, without our conscious thought or decision, for threats. And it shifts your psychological state before your thinking brain has registered anything at all. In actuality, this is a great survival response. But when we're not actually being chased by lions and tigers, when we are, in fact, safe, but our nervous system has adapted in this way, we can feel like we're in deep danger when we're really not. And this is why you can know exactly what you want to say, especially in the shower, in therapy, in your car, but not actually be able to say it when it matters, because the moment isn't cognitive, it's physiological. When you override your own response, when you take on the discomfort so that they don't have to, you take the weight of the truth and quietly absorb it. And they never really feel it land. And this is what I mean when I say that you are stealing their struggle. And you don't do it to be manipulative. You're doing it because your body has learned that this is how you stay safe in relationship, in connection. But the cost for you and for them is significant. And we're going to talk about that now. So every time that you override your truth in a relational moment, two things happen simultaneously. And I want you to hear both of them very clearly. The first is what happens to you. So your nervous system receives a confirmation, a data point, if you will. It filed away the message expressing the truth in a relationship is not safe. That's literally the snapshot that it takes, the headline. And the next time a similar moment arises, the tightening will come faster, the override will happen sooner, and the threshold between feeling something and suppressing it gets much more narrow. And this is actually what you want your system to do in other situations, right? It's scanning for a data point, it registers that data point, and then it predicts that that might happen again in the future. And when it does, it reacts faster. So your system isn't broken, it's just naturally adapting. And I want you to really feel that. It's actually not a metaphor, what I'm talking about. This is how the nervous system really learns. It learns through repetition and experience. And it's accumulative over time. So every time you edit yourself, you are literally training your body that your truth is dangerous. And that training compounds over time. So research in somatic psychology, which is something very dear to my heart, particularly the work of Peter Levine, who is the founder of somatic experiencing, that's a whole nother podcast episode, shows that unexpressed responses don't simply disappear. They are held in our body. And the thing that was not said lives somewhere in the body. I'll do another episode on how the nervous system really works, the different branches of it, and what unexpressed survival energy actually does within the body, how it manifests itself. But for now, let's just focus on this and the fact that that unexpressed feeling, that unexpressed truth is living within your body as survival energy. Just imagine it continuously running through your system. Now, it can be held in things like breath pattern, in chronic muscle tension. You might stop noticing things like this. You might have a tight neck. I used to get chronic migraines all the time. And the reason that we sometimes poo-poo these things away or don't pay enough attention to them, or just chuck some Nurofen down our throat and think that's just being a human. I'm just sore and tired and had a shitty week. Because that has become our new baseline. That's become our new normal. If you always have backaches and migraines or whatever, then that's your new baseline. The second part of what happens is what actually happens to them or what doesn't happen to them. So you've stolen their struggle, which means they don't learn how they impact you. They don't get the chance to respond differently. They don't get to meet you in reality, in your reality. Only in the edited version, and let's just say representative, that you have decided is safe to offer. So the relationship doesn't change. The dynamic doesn't change. They don't have the opportunity to choose differently or change. And you don't change. So the same interaction repeats. There may be slight variations, but it happens again and again. Because the thing that needed to be said never was. And the relationship, which on the surface might look stable and warm, maybe, is being built on what's unsaid. So the foundation is actually fractured because it's not based in foundational truth or reality. Now, Dan Siegel, whose research on interpersonal neurobiology has shaped a lot of modern trauma and modern trauma-informed therapy, describes healthy relationships as requiring what he calls integration, which is huge in my world and in life. Doesn't really matter what we learn if we don't integrate anything. It's all a fucking waste. So what integration is actually defined as is the capacity to be both differentiated and connected simultaneously, to be fully yourself while remaining in relationship. Because when you constantly erase your differentiation, when you dissolve your truth to maintain the connection, you're not creating closeness, either with them or yourself. You create a very convincing imitation of it. And underneath that imitation, resentment grows, quietly, slowly, and usually in the direction of the person that you are working the hardest to protect. So you see how you're kind of setting it all up for failure? I know. Take a moment, let it land. So how do we shift this? What is the shift? Well, the shift is not becoming someone who just loves hard conversations or wants to be combative and argue all the time. And I want to be really clear about that because most boundary advice out there is bullshit, but also makes it sound like the goal is a new personality, someone bold, assertive, unafraid of conflict, takes no shit, says, "This is how I am, fuck you." That's not a boundary. That's actually a wall. And it's, again, performative and, again, a representative of your untruth. It's not really who you are. And dare I say that I think it's quite the overcorrection when it comes to boundary advice. You don't want to go from appeasement and fawning into full-blown, I'm going to fucking war in every conversation, because neither of those are integrated or regulated in any way. So that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the shift is far more specific and far more achievable than that. It is in the capacity that lives within your body. It is the capacity to stay in your body, to stay in that moment, in that conversation with that person when everything inside of you wants to leave it or change your response or fawn. It is to feel the tightening and not immediately override it. It is to feel the tightening of the throat and the shortness of the breath and stay with the experience. To know that you are safe because you have the capacity and the window of tolerance to accept that. It is also to allow them to have their reaction, whatever that reaction may be, without collapsing into it or trying to fix it. Because the second part of this is sometimes, especially as women, when we are going through this process of recalibration and integrating and starting to hold boundaries, if we feel them getting uncomfortable after we have set a boundary, we need to stay in that place so we don't rush to help them through their struggle. And this is what neuroscience calls expanding the window of tolerance. It's the range within which your nervous system can remain regulated. It's a little bit different to capacity, but it's expanding what you can tolerate while staying within your body. And when I say tolerate, I do not mean putting up with bullshit. I feel I need to do an episode that goes through literacy and vocabulary and redefining what those words mean, because they have such negative connotations sometimes and they're very misunderstood. What this looks like is you stay present and functional and connected to your own truth. And you do that without tipping into anxiety or overwhelm or shutdown. Now, the research is unambiguous on this. The window of tolerance is not fixed. It is trainable, it is adaptable, and it expands through repeated and supported embodied experience of staying in present moments so that your system, which previously classified things as unsurvivable, learns a new experience and therefore expands its ability to tolerate. It doesn't do this by thinking. This is not how we move through things, by constantly cognitively processing things and rewiring our story. It is about the body. Now, when the window expands, when you feel the tension without being consumed by it, something shifts in the relationship too. You stop stealing their struggle and you let both of you grow inside the truth. Now, before I tell you about embodied boundaries, I actually want to give you something that you can use today. A quick win, something that you can take away, and something that begins the process that we've actually been talking about in this episode. It's not in theory, but it's in your actual body. And I call this the threshold practice. So here's what I want you to do. Take a deep breath. Now think of a recent moment where you didn't say the thing. Not a huge moment, a small one. One where you said it's fine or softened something or let it go. I want you to bring it to mind really clearly that you can almost feel the moment and feel the room. Now, and this is really important, don't go into the story of it. Don't analyze it. Don't decide whether you were right or wrong. Just notice what happens in your body when you bring it to your mind. Do you feel a tightening anywhere? Is there a shift in your breath? Is there a holding? I want you to just notice. Don't move it. Go into it. Don't fix it. and don't try and breathe it away. Just stay with it. Now, I want you to put one hand on that place wherever you are feeling something. Just rest your hand there. And I want you to say, not loudly, you can say it silently or in your mind, 3 words. I feel this. That's it. That's the beginning. What you just did, bringing your attention to a bodily sensation and staying with it without overriding it, is what we call interoception. You just did an interoceptive practice, and it's an internal awareness. Now, again, I want to take you through some research. So in neuroscience journals that are peer-reviewed, they show that this kind of intentional, attentional training literally changes how the nervous system processes threat. It widens the window, and it begins to teach your body that sensation can be felt without requiring immediate action to make it stop. You just did the thing that this episode has been about. Not perfectly, not completely, but you stayed with something for a moment instead of moving away from it. And this is where the work begins. Do this once a day for the next week, not with big moments, with the small ones. And I really want you to feel into the places in your body that feel activated when you didn't say the thing that you wanted to say. Just put your hand there, take a moment and say, I feel this. That's enough to start. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, I know exactly what I needed to say, I just can't say it in the moment, then you already understand more than you think you do. You already have self-awareness. And you understand that this isn't a communication problem. You understand this isn't about finding better words or getting the perfect script together. You understand the moment where everything falls apart is happening in your body, not your head. And you're right. Because this work, the real work, is about building capacity to stay in that moment, to feel the tightening and remain present, to let the other person have their reaction and not dissolve into it or race to undo it. This is what embodied boundaries is built for. It's not scripts, it's not strategies, it's not a new way of thinking about your relationship. It's a different relationship to what happens within your body in the half second before you say it's fine. I'll pop the link below. Check it out and hit me up if you have any questions. Thank you. This has been an epic episode about one of my deepest passions, which is somatic healing and nervous system, and also boundaries. Because boundaries are the way that we can love ourselves and nourish ourselves and love the world and nourish the world simultaneously. They are not walls. They are our ability to live to our highest values and in our highest authenticity. So thank you for listening. I will pop all the show notes below and the links that you need, and I will see you in the next episode.